Hey guys, so I had all these ideas to do a podcast and all that other stuff. And then I thought I would just practice by just going live and doing my videos on YouTube. I actually just got an IV. I get glutathione and then I get a Myers cocktail kind of thing that helps me. I feel like it helps me sleep better. It helps my anxiety. It just helps so much in terms of just living a great quality of life. And so I wanted to talk about this idea of helping yourself because so many women come to me and they come to me with the same things. They say that they're stuck. They say that they're not finding as much joy in their life as they once did. They say that, they just, the best way to explain it is like today it's like a beautiful sunny day and they just feel like their life is like in black and white instead of beautiful technicolor. And they don't necessarily know how that happened or when it happened. They just know that it's something that they want to change. And so, one of literally the greatest things that I have learned myself is how so many things that we do to try to fix ourselves or fix the situation are rooted in not understanding our nervous system and kind of using the things that work with our nervous system in ways that we have done in the past. And so, what I mean by that is some of us have grown up in sort of dysfunctional families. And so, what we think is quote unquote normal is absolutely not normal. It's just the normal that we know. And because that our brain has defaulted to that, our brain has sort of understood this to be normal, we never question it and we never kind of get out of the way that we do things until one day it just doesn't work anymore. And I actually want you to take a moment and just celebrate this. If you're in a place where you feel like you are so stuck and you feel like all the things that you used to do don't work anymore, that is an awesome revelation. It actually means that you are in the best place to heal yourself. You are in the best place to make real change. Um, because I feel like when we realize that the way that we used to do things doesn't work anymore, it means that we're actually open to learning about other ways to do things. And so I don't know about you, but there's like different ways that people respond to things. And so, you've heard the fight or flight syndrome. And there's also the freeze syndrome. And I think for a lot of us women who feel like we're stuck, we're actually in freeze mode. And so it feels like we're like an ice cube. It feels like we're stuck. And what I mean by that is like, you walk by the laundry that hasn't been done. You walk by the mail that you're supposed to open. You see you're very aware of all the things that you should be doing and even though it would take like only seconds to do, you just don't do it because you just are in freeze mode. You're not even paying attention to things to be done, taking action. You're just like basically just functioning and just trying to keep things together. And we don't realize how hard that is on our stress, on our body. And a lot of us have been under this sort of stress for a long time, and we don't even recognize it as stress. We just recognize it as like, hey, this is life. And what happens, and I feel like it happens the same time that menopause happens, is that we start to have kind of physical issues from this stress. And so what happens is women start to do all these things that don't really help the stress. And so, one of the things that I used to do is whenever I was like feeling stressed or whatever, I would always go for that dopamine hit of like, I'm gonna fully commit to my workout program and I'm gonna do this extreme diet or whatever. And like it would give you that dopamine hit, right? Like, oh my God, I'm gonna get these amazing results and I'm gonna really push myself and I'm gonna go all in and all this other stuff. And so what we don't realize is those ideas are opening up parts and lighting up parts of our brain that are like the very basics of our brain. And what we don't realize is that there's other parts of the brain that actually do well, that actually feel good, and it comes from simple, consistent behavior. And so it's almost like our nervous system fights against the very thing that helps us, which is consistency, which is small habits. And what's interesting is like when I take a step back, I tend to look and see that all of the things that are marketed towards women are always to light up these parts of the brain, like whether it's shopping, whether it's diet culture, whether it's relationships and men or women. It's all to like light up that part of our brain that is just, based upon like, oh my goodness, I have to have it now kind of thing. And there's this whole part of us that actually works well. Our stress is reduced. Our body functions work better when we are doing something that is consistent, that is habit forming. And the thing is that most of the time that we look at these things, we think it's just boring. We're like, oh, that's boring or whatever. And one of the things that I've realized is it's the very thing that women need. And so in order to kind of start to get used to this process, you need to kind of first recognize your nervous system and recognize your triggers and recognize your body. And that can come from the physical. Like I used to realize that I used to feel it in my chest. Sometimes people feel it in their throat. Sometimes people feel it in their stomach. Like their body will actually start to give them kind of hints of like, hey, something is going on and I'm responding to it. And so I have basically used things in my life to basically regulate that nervous system and be able to get all that stuff out. And so when people talk about regulating their nervous system, they're like, what does that mean? And basically it just means allowing your nervous system to kind of work. And what that means is like feeling your feelings. It means breathing. It means being able to be present and sit still and, do all these things that sometimes are foreign to us and basically start to unpack a lot of the things, a lot of the thoughts that we have in our head. And, one of the things that I've realized is that the brain doesn't know like good from bad. And so a lot of people are always tell me, they'll be like, well, I know what to do. Like, I know I'm not supposed to do that. I know that's bad or that's good. And it's like, yeah, but the brain doesn't know bad and good. And so you're expecting the brain to do something different when the brain just knows common. The brain just knows default. The brain just knows what it's used to. And the best way I can explain it, a good analogy is, I don't know about you, but when I take my kids to school, sometimes I take them to school and I'm like, we're already there. And I'm like, how the hell did I get here? Right? And it's because you take the same path every day without fail. Whether it's snowing, whether it's raining, whether it's whatever, it's the same path. And so it's not that it's good or bad, it's just the one that you always take. And so I don't know about you, but I'm 51. And so we've been taking the same pathway in our relationships, in taking care of our body, in even mothering. And it takes really some habit forming. It takes to do things in small ways to actually start to develop a new way of thinking. And so, I always tell people it's not that we can get rid of thinking, it's that we have to change the thinking. And so, a lot of people think that if they just numb something or if they just stop doing something, like this miraculous thing will happen. And that's just not how energy works. And it's just not how we work. And so what happens is you need to kind of transmute it into something. And so, that's why, like if you have a habit of like you're eating after dinner and you don't want to eat after dinner, it's not enough to just be like, oh, I'm not eating after dinner. It's like you have to replace it with another habit that is going to be more beneficial to what you're doing. And so, like for instance, on days that I didn't want to eat out after dinner, like I would do something with my hands. And so like I would clean a closet, or I would watch TV in another room, or I would get into like drinking like different teas and stuff like that. And so I wasn't like just eliminating something, I was changing it into something, and something more positive. And so I'm going to be talking about this more. This is sort of kind of like a general discussion about this, but I really think that if we want to help women, we must start teaching them different ways, rather than this, okay, here's this diet or here's this workout. And diet and workout are great, right? It's always great to eat well and to move your body, but the problem is that we have so many times packaged this as this end all be all. Like if you just look like this and you just do this workout and you just eat perfectly, everything else is going to work. And it's just not true. And I just don't want to continue that myth anymore. And so part of the reason why I don't feel like I have a quote unquote weight problem anymore, or that feeling of needing to diet anymore, is really because I have chilled out my nervous system. My nervous system isn't like running rampant with thoughts anymore. It's actually gotten to a place where I feel like I am the calmest I've ever been, which, if you know me, if you know how I grew up, that in of itself is just such a blessing to the quality of my life. And so I really want to start talking about it more with women, because I feel like it's a subject that I think it's a subject that people think is like woo woo, like kind of crazy and like whatever. And it's actually really scientific based work. And it really is a lot of us what we need, because I don't know about you, but I'm 51 and I've been through a lot of shit. And I think that we actually don't realize that when we experience stressful times or trauma and different tiers of trauma, it stays with us. It stays in our body. And it's only when we learn to release that stuff that we truly have this better quality of life. And so I'm going to keep coming on here in YouTube and doing these little videos and hoping that you get something out of it. And so if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel, because then you will know when I do a new video, you'll know when I go live.